Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Spring equinox. This is your AstroShaman Pernell Bobby, and we are generating an economy of harmony, leveraging human designed astrology. Aries New Moon, I cut off all my hair. All right. It is a brand new season. We're here to express a brand new mind. Now, as I speak about the mind, I'm talking Mercury in Aries. All right. This actually activates gate 17 as of where we are right now. Now, understand that gate will change. Okay. But as of right now, as the new moon hits, we're at gate 17. And I'm going to list what that programming partner looks like, which is obviously Libra. Aries, shadow side of Aries is Libra, which is gate 18. I'm not going to talk too much about 18 because it's not active, but it is the programming partner, so it matters a little bit. All right. Mercury in Aries. I have a Mercury in Aries natal, so I'm able to give you real life experience and even how it progressed, right? But to start off, really, when you look at Aries, the shadow frequency of Mercury at this gate 17, while we're in the one line, which is what we're investigating, we're deeply investigating ourselves, is about understanding where are we overly opinionated and how those opinions have formed in the first 7 years of our life. Now, this is one of the gates that, as it gets programmed, if you were not overly conditioned in a dogmatic fashion in those first 7 years of your life, you likely are someone who could honest to God see the future. You omniscience, you know absolutely everything. So that's if you weren't. Now, most of us have honestly been conditioned by our parents because our parents were conditioned by their parents and conditioned. So it's actually a very rare thing. But if you weren't, you know, this is going to show a little bit different for you. So keep that in mind. Now, the shadow is being opinionated. When I say opinionated, I'm talking left brain. It's looking at Aries as a masculine sign, and Aries only believing that it is a masculine sign and not understanding that it's separated from the feminine being Pisces. It's separated itself, and it attaches its opinions and actually validates its opinions to argue with another while concealing its counter argument. And this is really one of the dangers of a Mercury in Aries. And I've seen this in myself, natally speaking. Like I said, I have a natal Mars in Aries where on that side, it's like that shadow of Libra, like concealing your argument, keeping your argument like you're like a lawyer, Libra, close to your chest and waiting for the moment to strike at the right time, Libra. Okay, again, being exalted in Saturn, understanding time, and then striking where the blow is so fatal that no one can even defend themselves. Now, that's one shadow side of Aries, and the opinionated left brain is looking at things only from a logical perspective, only from a perspective that really reinforces and solidifies its own opinions. Now, when this is repressed, this looks more like you know, when you repress the anger and you repress your voice. Mercury is our voice, how we speak, how I move my hands literally as I speak. If I don't move my hands and I maintain this solid position, or the tonality of how you speak, the compassion you speak with, what you learn, how you learn. Aries is wanting to learn you know, the balance and the understanding of being forceful as well as speaking from the heart. Speaking from the mind, which is much more dangerous, rather than speaking from the heart, which is much more gentle and graceful. It's actually one of the consistencies of the ring of humanity. Now, there's about 5 other gates or so in there in the ring of humanity. Gate 17 is just one of them. So humanity is opinionated. We've seen this. This is the shadow frequency, though, because you know, on the rest press side, this looks like being overly critical, you know, being so critical of, you know, yourself that you don't trust yourself, right? When you don't trust yourself, your opinions in a sense stay to yourself. And when they stay to yourself, it's like you're trapped in your own world, right? Like you're just refusing to share your ideas, your thoughts with other people. Now, if you're in this reactive state of the shadow frequency of being opinionated, now you're, you know, gathering a tribe. You're being an Aries, Mercury in Aries. Your mind is set towards, you know, leading in boldness, leading in courage, but that courage can be truly blind, and it can be blinded by anger. One of the frequencies of Aries that could be a shadow, or it could be a fuel source for Mercury in Aries. All right, if you can transmute that anger with a heartfelt love. Now, when I say heartfelt love, this is essentially how, you know, if we're in that reactive state, we're banding people together and we're surrounding ourselves with people who actually validate our opinions. They validate our one-sided narrative where we stay narrow-minded. Now, this is what I said, left brain. But Aries, as you start working into this gift frequency of Mercury in Aries, on this new moon, in this spring equinox, you hear the beautiful birds speaking. We start gaining this gift of far-sightedness. But before I go into far-sightedness and how that combines the left brain and the right brain, aka adding in the heart, bringing in the creativity, you know, bringing in the love, bringing in the understanding, all right, bringing in the faith and the timelines that you see, because this gate 17 or even Aries is a very futuristic sign. It's one of the reasons why it seems impatient, where our mind can feel like it's running 1,000 miles an hour, or like, for example, when I was younger, and even now, when I get so overly excited, my brain moves so much faster than what my physical body can process. I begin to stutter. This is essentially what it means to stutter. All right. And so as I look at this to help you understand Mercury in Aries, all right, and how it could benefit you, first off, this is not about actually being forceful. This is not about being rash and angry and you know just bold and courage and full of courage, where you just like, I'm taking my life back and I'm putting it in my own hands. It's like, when you really work into this, you start realizing like timelines, and you realize timelines through logic. You're able to combine logic and the third eye. This gate 17 in human design, for example, or gene keys, more so gene keys, it actually ties to the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is your ajna. This gate 17 in gene keys, it sits in the ajna of the human design map. Okay, it sits in the ajna, the third eye center, the awareness center. And so what this looks like, you know, when you start implementing, you move beyond these opinions, which were programmed by Libra's shadow of judgment. And judgment is like, you know, where you overly judge, where you judged over everything you've done while you were growing up. If it's a yes, then you likely became an overly opinionated person, whether repressed or reactive. Now, when you move into far-sightedness, this is essentially stepping out of the mind and moving into the heart. And we all know that Aries is exalted in the sun. What's the sun? Leo. What's Leo? The heart. So physiologically speaking, this is the heart. This is why, like I spoke earlier about what gate 25 and the shadow is constriction. And you could check my new moon video in Aries. It's out there already, where, you know, we're genetically constricted from an ancestral level, and we are even struggling to breathe. Right. So to move on, far-sightedness is what the gift looks like in this gate 17 to help you better understand Mercury in Aries. And this is literally just recognizing timelines, literally like being able to put timelines together and seeing like, look, beyond logic, there's his right brain as well. Beyond the left brain of logic and reason and rationality, there's his right brain, which is not logical. It's more intuitive. Now, it's very different than like Sagittarius energy, or like what we get 11 in this instance. And Sag is like, look, this, you know, super abstract right brain type energy, where Gemini will be more of the left. And the super abstract, this is not the same. You know, the right brain of Aries is still combining the logic and the vision. It's like Pisces and Aries in combination. It's like taking divinity but being able to use numbers. So numerology is major. You might see numerology. Look, I just saw 88 on screen, 808 to be more specific on screen, you know. And that 808 in that specific order would start to tell me what divinity is speaking through me. So right now we're saying already, we're transforming our deepest fears, and we're transforming how we used to deal with rage and anger. And that will ultimately turn into the management of that transmutation will turn into great abundance. Okay, so that's one of the things that it just told me right there. So this is what gate 17 or Mercury in Aries has as a beautiful ability, is actually a numerological genius. And a lot of what this is like, you know, this is kind of shaman type energy, honestly, this gate itself. Because when you start stepping from this far-sightedness and you speak from the heart rather than speaking from the mind, speaking from intelligence and overly identifying with your opinions, what happens is you start to accept that everyone has an opinion, and you start to accept that opinions are not inherently bad or unhealthy. They're just an element of life, and it's only our attachment to our identity. Aries is the identity. So Mercury in identity, when we mentally attach to the identity of what the dogmatic form of this opinion is that we read from a book, or we learn from a teacher, or you learn from me, or you learn from God knows what. It's when we overly identify with it and we start pretending that there are not multiple realities and timelines existing at the same time. This is the kind of energy where it's like, as you begin to recognize the beginning is really the end, and the end is really the beginning, it becomes this snake, this Ouroboros. You've heard this, when the snake bites its tail, and it becomes this never-ending cycle. And what happens is, you know, you start to, as you move into the higher frequencies, realize the Maya or the illusion. You realize, like, look, you know, I need to actually tell somebody this story in this manner because it's going to send them off track so that they can identify with this opinion in a new way that 808 transforms literally their obsession. Literally, this is 8 energy as part obsession. They start to transform their obsession with whatever that opinion was that was trained from their judgment. And this is when you work into the gift of the shadow, which is really talking about integrity. Integrity, again, shadow. Libra, integrity. What? Saturn. Saturn is all about integrity. So this is where we start working and operating integrity. We realize that, like, you know, multiple opinions can be true and are true whether we accept that or not at the same time. And so you look at Mercury in Aries, this is how we start leading. We lead with the heart, we lead with integrity. And this starts to bring us to this Siddhic frequency of like omniscience, where you just know everything. But knowing everything doesn't mean that you start, it's the kind of thing where like you might tell somebody else their future, but telling them their future will literally either actually activate the future or it will deny them their future. But all of that within itself is this, again, it's this snake biting its tail. 1 on screen, 1 on screen. Literally building a brand new manifestation of, you know, knowing everything and nothing at the same time. Like, it's this continuously loop where you begin to play the game of humanity. You begin to accept and embrace your role in humanity. Even if you can tell what's going to come 6 years from now, you still act and be yourself today. And you realize that, yes, you know, life in humanity is predetermined and it's preordained, and at the same time that you have your freedom of will, and you start to, when you get Mercury in Aries, and I'm gonna tell you, I have Mercury in Aries, and this really pained me when I was younger, like to see something and know something, but then try to speak it, but then it'd be so far out of time and place that I would essentially kind of like step out of integrity because I didn't understand anything I'm saying right now 10 years ago. You feel me? But it's like once you start to get it, what begins to happen is like you reach this sense of like progressing humanity to its perfected state, taking their opinion and putting opinion into form, and no longer overly identifying with it to the fact where you become so dogmatic that you lose your individuality and you try to disrupt what is in a sense preordained or predetermined. And that it just messes up everything. So essentially the irony of Mercury in Aries is like, you know, recognizing how to live your experience from the divine and from the third eye point of view, where, you know, you don't need plant medicines and other psychedelics to open your third eye. It's just open. This is, like I said, a pituitary gland. It represents and connects to the ajna, and the ajna is this awareness center. But this awareness center, which is more here, right? Ajna, which I can tap on, I can literally slide up and open. And if you do that, make sure that you do go ahead and slide down and close, because you can waste a lot of spiritual energy and you can drain yourself. So you notice I just closed mine. But before you get here, you have to start at the root, the sacral, the solar plexus. And when you're at the solar plexus, this is really a big connection to Mercury in Aries, actually, in the solar plexus. And it's just this total understanding and this flow of like, you know, allowing this to happen and not attaching to the high or the low of anything, but just being present. Aries is a masculine energy. The first masculine energy is pure consciousness. It is pure presence. It is pure heartfelt, strong, loving energy. And this is why it really connects deeply with the solar plexus. But again, you need to move to the heart chakra, and the heart chakra is what we're talking. And now it's like, look, we're not being overly critical anymore, and we're not being overly opinionated, which is one of the shadows of the heart chakra, back to Aries. Now, and instead, we're just being compassionate and we're being gentle, and we can be sensitive. And this is really the true power of Aries. It is all those sensitivities. It is a 0 to 2 year old baby. And there's no one more sensitive, in my personal opinion, than a 0 to 2 year old baby. They know everything. Hear what I just said. They know everything. This is Mercury in Aries. We right now know, in the spring equinox, after stepping out of this darkness, everything. But knowing everything does mean that we still need to approach that far-sighted knowing and combine the right brain and the left brain together. Logic and intuition, creativity and rationality, you know, purpose and direction on the left brain, and, you know, just the flow to shift between the purpose and direction accordingly, and not attach overly to what you think is true, and especially not, you know, trying to cancel somebody else out because they have a difference of opinion than you. All of it matters, and all of it is together. So when I look at Mercury in Aries, it's like the true gift of this is stepping out of the mind and acting and moving and thinking and being and intellectualizing from the heart. And as you do that, you will start to embrace everything as pure consciousness as well as love, and you will know everything and nothing at the same time, and you will attach to neither. And it took me a long time to be able to break this down, even with me being born as a Mercury in Aries, literally. I don't have the 17th gate myself, but again, these things work through consciousness. The degrees work through consciousness. So it's like, in some past life, I've already done this. It's just why when I came across the information again, it's just like, okay. But this gate, when you talk omniscience, it is above, and I don't even want to say above, it literally dissipates the need and understanding for past lives, for borders, and for boundaries altogether. This is a magnificent gate. It's hella confusing in some ways, and in other ways, it's not confusing at all. And this is the simplicity of moving beyond the dualistic mindset of the shadow frequency of the gate 17 or Mercury in Aries, which is being so overly opinionated, so attached that you essentially are controlled by the judgment that was formed in your primitive years of 0 to 7 years old, where you've gone through your biggest form of spiritual wounding. And Aries is one of the most spiritual signs out there. Fire is fire, and fire has always been one of the most mythical things. It is literally stolen from Zeus by Prometheus and brought down to earth to the humans. It is a godly, mythical source of destruction and chaos simultaneously, and it's the transcendence of duality as a whole. So this is your AstroShaman Pernell Bobby. Definitely hit the thumbs up and the like button if you want to learn how to digest, human design and astrology, as well as gene keys, all in combination, and fuse it all into one little lovely bubble where you, in my personal opinion, working in the frequencies way beyond the shadows. We move away from these simple narratives like, oh, Aries is anger, and Aries is force, and Aries is shock, and Aries is penetration. It's like, man, come on, we got to grow up. And so this is also what I mean right there, where it's like attaching to certain opinions so strongly, so deeply, that we essentially ignore the realities that are above our current existing reality. Hit the thumbs up and the likes button. Join our memberships. This is one of the reasons why I really truly believe Aries is exalted in Uranus, whether you hear that out loud or not. It's about the detachment, whether that's even true or not, and allowing your mind to see beyond what can actually be seen. Again, you can't get to the ajna until you work through the throat. You can't get to the throat until you work through the heart. And so when you work through the heart, all of these higher last 3 frequencies, as well as up to the 12 chakras and above, they begin to actually not only activate, but become your innate superpower that has always been there. Look at that. I'm at 17 minutes on gate 17. I love you all. Thank you for the thumbs up and the subscription. I'll see you soon. Mwah, mwah, mwah.